It's time to focus on seniors with Helping Seniors TV. The television show designed to make you aware of senior issues and needs, as well as to acquaint you with the resources available to help you age in place and with dignity. Now, here's your host, Joe Steckler.
I'm Joe Steckler, and welcome to Helping Seniors, the television arm of Helping Seniors of Brevard County. Our show is designed to provide you with information on how to develop your own aging and care plans. Our topic today is real estate law, and joining me today is Jonathan Lack of Waterview Realty. And I want to say, before I turn to you, welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you.
I'll welcome you first. But I want you viewers to know that in over 400 television shows I've done, this is the first real estate attorney I've had on the show. And after I looked at the questions he said we could talk about today, I realized that I should have done this a long time ago, because many of you, like me, probably have made mistakes that could have been easily avoided had we had an elder law attorney or a real estate attorney involved, Jonathan, with our home purchase. And in today's market, when we're talking homes that we bought for $300,000 or $400,000 years ago are now worth over $1 million. So there are significant amounts involved.
Yes, absolutely. And I do want to thank you for having me on the show, and being the first is an honor. So thank you for that.
First of all, so that our viewers know a little bit more about you. Okay. First question I had was how about just describing your legal background, because I think it's interesting.
Okay, well, I've been a transactional real estate attorney for over 25 years now, and I'm in practice together with my father, Ed, in our law firm of Lack & Lack Chartered. We also have a title insurance company, Waterview Title Services, and we have handled thousands of real estate transactions. Unfortunately, when the market collapsed in 2006, I've had to re-describe myself as a distressed property owner's representative, and there I assisted people with foreclosure defense and loan modifications and short sales and the like. And we'll talk later about the Florida Hardest Hit Fund. That's when I got involved in that. Actually, that was in 2011. And out of that arose Waterview Realty Services, where I'm currently the broker owner of Waterview Realty. So I still practice law as a real estate attorney, but also have a real estate brokerage to assist what I call a graceful exit from the home for those who are in need of getting out of their home, right, and also a smooth transition for both seniors and others looking to move from one situation to another.
That's important. That's what because we're going to talk about seniors, because now your legal background, what does a real estate attorney do? And let's take it from how you can help seniors. And if we can direct it a little bit more toward that.
Okay. Well, to answer that, I feel it's important to understand the roles of what I would call the three principal players in a real estate transaction. You have the realtor or real estate agent who assists finding a buyer for a seller or finding a seller for a buyer, and as a value-added service, they will assist you throughout the transaction. You have the attorney, who usually takes over at the time of entering into a contract. And again, a good attorney as a value-added service will assist you throughout the transaction. And then you have the title company, who's the one who, once the contract is executed, processes the file for closing. So those are the three principal players. The real estate attorney's role in that is to represent either the buyer or the seller and make sure that the contract is drafted in such a way that properly protects their client, still achieving the goal of buying or selling the home, but making sure that their their rights and obligations are protected and understood.
Years ago, we bought a home, and at the time, the real estate agent we had got us to buy something, I think if I remember, it was called title insurance?
Yes. Title insurance, the way the process works, you own your home and your land, and the public records are where the documents that evidence your ownership are stored, and those are public records available to anyone. And that's where your deed would get recorded, any mortgages get recorded, if you happen to have any liens or judgments against you or easements against the property. Basically, anything affecting the real estate is recorded in the public records. A title insurance company's job is to research the public records and confirm that the seller owns the property and the buyer is getting the property, and that when the buyer buys it, there are no liens or judgments that can come back to haunt them from the seller or anybody prior to the seller. So it literally goes back all the way to the beginning of the state of Florida, if we're talking about the state of Florida here.
Well, you know, buying a home is one thing. You pay that mortgage payment, and you watch the amounts go down and go down and go down, and you get close to making that last payment. We made the last payment on the house, and we got a document back. I'm going to have to look, because I don't. I asked you a question before the show. How does one prove that you own a home if you're going to sell it? And I want you to tell the viewers what you told me, but. How in the thunder do I prove that my house is my house if I want to sell it, if I don't have the right paperwork? And how do I know if I got the right paperwork?
Right. Well, again, hopefully that's when you've turned to your attorney or your title company. But when you purchase the home, you get a deed, and that deed gets recorded in public records. And that's what evidences your ownership of the property from that moment that you purchased it. If you've gotten a mortgage on the property, that mortgage also gets recorded in the public records. And so when somebody does a title search, they will see the deed and they will see the mortgage, and they will know that you own the property, but that there is a mortgage against it. When you pay off that mortgage, the lender is required under current Florida law to record a satisfaction of the mortgage in the public records. So again, when you're doing your search of the public records, you'd see the deed, you'd see the mortgage, then ultimately you'd see a satisfaction of mortgage. Unfortunately, lenders don't always do what they're supposed to, so it is important when you pay off the mortgage to follow up and make sure that that satisfaction did get recorded. If it did not, again, you contact the lender and express to them the law that requires that they record it. If, as we talked off camera, it's been 15 years, now you're going to sell your home and you don't know whether it's been paid off or not, the first step would be to search the public records, which again are available on the internet nowadays, or you can call an attorney or title company and see if in fact that satisfaction was properly recorded.
I know for a fact, I know that the mortgage is paid off. I know that.
Right.
But what kind of, it's like when you sell a car and you get the title transfer and get a title transfer. Right. You get a piece of paper back saying, like a lady gave us a 1992 Jaguar to raffle off to help seniors. Right. And I had to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles. We got the title transferred to helping seniors, and I just got the original copy of the certificate in the mail recently.
The difference with a car title is when you buy a car and you get a lien against it, the lender retains the actual title. That title certificate is your title to the car. When dealing with real estate, the deed is your evidence of the ownership, but that deed gets recorded in the public records. And once it's recorded in the public records, you don't actually need the piece of paper anymore because it is now of public record. So the satisfaction of mortgage, unlike a title certificate, okay, it's paid, they mark it paid, they give you your title certificate, and that's how you know you own it because you got the piece of paper. With the real estate, you would need to get the satisfaction of mortgage recorded in the public records to show that that mortgage has been paid off.
Yeah, I'm concerned because I'm almost certain that I got all this stuff in one drawer, and I'm going to look because I don't remember seeing a deed recorded in my name.
I am certain the deed, I would hope so, but I am certain the deed will have been recorded. And if you got title insurance, as we had talked earlier, title insurance actually insures not only that you own the property, but that you own it free of any liens or judgments, except for maybe a mortgage or maybe some easements for utilities and things of that nature.
Okay. As long as we're talking about this part of the program right now, you made a comment, and I asked you about senior involvement in selling property and purchasing property. And more seniors are selling their homes, buying a smaller home to downsize. You made a comment about where it's extremely important to have a senior involved is for the selling part and development of the contract. Did I hear you right?
Yeah, what we were talking about is the importance of having an attorney involved in a transaction. And with regard to a senior selling the property, the primary issue there is just making sure that the contract is prepared in such a way that the senior is not going ahead and making all sorts of plans, and then the contract might fall through and put them in a bad spot. So you want to make sure the contract is prepared in either a reasonably enforceable way, or if there's a default upon the buyer, that the senior has appropriate protection. And that really applies to anyone, not just to seniors. The bigger issue with regard to seniors is really when they're purchasing a property, or if they're owning a property but trying to decide estate planning type matters. And towards that end, while I do practice some elder law, you are better off with an elder law specialist if you're doing a complete estate plan. As it pertains to real estate, there are several different options that a senior should consider. And again, it is client dependent as to whether they...
What do you mean by that? What do you mean?
Well, for example, let's say you're a single man and you have some children and you want to make sure that your estate is properly cared for. If you own the property in your name alone right now and you pass away, if you have a will, the property would go through probate and it would be distributed to your children. There are ways you can avoid that if it's appropriate to your circumstances. You can do what's called a life estate with remainder, where you own the property so long as you live, so it is still your property and you own it, but upon your death it automatically transfers to the children and there's no need for probate and things like that. Alternatively, you can actually add a child to title now, and that's called joint tenants with right of survivorship, so that when you die, it's automatically theirs. There are pitfalls in each of these, and therefore it does require a conversation.
What are some of the pitfalls in doing something like that?
Well,
that's one of the questions. Sure. I said, what are some of the pitfalls if an attorney is not involved?
Yeah. Well, again, I took that question to mean not involved in a real estate transaction. I kind of sidestepped us into more of an estate planning thing. So why don't we slide back into the real estate transaction and the pitfalls involved with not having an attorney involved. Again, when a transaction goes smoothly, when everything goes the way it's supposed to, you have a buyer who wants to buy it, a seller who wants to sell it, they enter into a contract that a realtor can prepare for them, and everything goes the way it's supposed to, all is well in the world. But what unfortunately happens is something happens to the buyer and they can't close and it leaves the seller in a bad spot. Or there's a title issue, as we discussed. There's a mortgage that you tell me is paid off, but there's no satisfaction in the public records, and we have to research that issue. Or maybe there's a lien that needs to be addressed. That's when an attorney really needs to get involved to assist with the clearing up of the title. As an attorney, it is always my preference to be involved in the transaction at the very beginning. That way I can review the contract and make sure that various clauses are there to protect my client and their interests. And I've done thousands of closings, so I have a lot of experience. I can avoid pitfalls. I can see problems down the road and drive us through the transaction, avoiding problems and or dealing with them as they come up. When I get called, and this happens frequently, unfortunately, I get called, we have a closing tomorrow and there's a problem, can you help us? Of course I'm going to dive in and I'm going to attempt to assist to get the closing closed, but it's a lot harder to dive in the day before a closing and try to resolve a problem than to have been involved for the 30 or 60 days leading up to the closing, where I could have very potentially avoided the problem that occurred on the last day. So it is important to get the attorney involved ideally before the contract phase or at the contract phase, because that's when I can earn my greatest keep. I can make sure the contract is prepared in such a way and follow the contract through to closing to best represent my client.
At that point, you're going to help with how the stuff is worded so that it could pass to a child.
Right, and then if you're purchasing, we can discuss how you want to take title. Again, if you're a single person, that's easy. If you're married, there's what's called tenants by the entireties. If you're buying it along with your daughter, then you might want it with right of survivorship, or there's a variety of legal issues that need to be discussed.
I did a show one time, and the person on the show talked about whether you put one name down as the owner or two, whether they had joint ownership. And this was in estate planning. if you only had, say, the man's name on a car or the man's name on a house, and the man passes away and the wife's name is not on the property, is there a problem there?
Well, yeah, and that now we'll slide back. We were at the real estate side. Now we'll slide back to the estate planning side of things. If you own the property in your name alone, and I'm going to stick with real estate, cars are related but different. So if you own the property in your name alone and you die, that property goes into your estate, and then it gets distributed from your estate through the probate process. And if you have a will, then your will be probated and it will be distributed as you request in your will. If you die without a will, it's called intestate, and the state of Florida has what's called intestate succession, and the Florida statutes say, okay, this person died, he died without a will, here's what we, the state of Florida, says happens to your stuff. And it's very often what you would want: spouse first, then children, then parents, and so on.
So it would be better, though, then, to have the husband and wife's name on the property.
It is two things. It is always good to have a will. That way you say what you want to happen. I just went back for a second. Now, moving forward, when there's a husband and wife with almost, complete, you always have to speak with clients because every client is different. There might be circumstances, but it is almost certain that if you're a husband and wife, you should take title together as husband and wife. There's a special, it's called tenants by the entireties, and it's in the state of Florida and many other states, and it treats the husband and wife as one entity or entirety. So if the husband dies, the wife still owns the property automatically. If the wife dies, the husband owns the property automatically. And then there's other judgment protection issues that go along with that. So you want that if you're a husband and wife. Now, when one of the spouses dies, and let's say your wife passes away, and now you own the property in your name alone, that's when you need to determine, okay, I own this property in my name alone. When I die, what happens? And that's where future estate planning, or maybe adding a child. Again, I'm not suggesting everybody do that.
That's when you got to do it the right way.
Yeah, that's when you need to speak with somebody. You got to get counsel. And again, the advantage of an attorney will be that they will give you counsel. They will listen to what your circumstances are and then advise you to your best needs, not some generic response.
The purpose of this show, folks, is not to say that Jonathan Lack is what Jonathan Lack does is what I want you, a viewer, to understand and know that the importance of what you do, Jonathan, can be very important as people get older and they really don't understand what they're doing, or they've got families involved that really, and we're talking sometimes the case of a second marriage, and we have so many problems in there. So all I'm saying to our viewers and asking you to do this show today is because I know that you're qualified. I looked at your background, I saw what you did, and we got one other thing we want to talk about today. But I think we can suffice it to say that you can't make a mistake if you're selling a valuable piece of property to at least ask an attorney to look at it.
Well, again, I appreciate that. And buying and selling a home, even if you've done it, if you're older and you've done it a number of times, I've handled thousands of closings. Other real estate attorneys have handled thousands of closings over the course of our career. If you've done it 10 or 15 or 20 times every 5 or 6 or 7 years, you just don't have all of the detail and knowledge of the various pitfalls that can occur. And I say that hiring an attorney is a very low cost insurance policy for what is typically the largest transaction you'll be making, at least to that point in your life.
That's the point I'm trying to make. It's the same thing in people in dentistry. Dental implants are generally not covered by insurance. So people want to go to the cheapest place they can get to get a dental implant. That's a mistake, because I've had a dental implant. I had a good dentist put it in. I'm very happy. Yes, it cost me some money. I didn't plan to do that. But the same thing, I know from my own experience in real estate, had I not taken the title insurance, I could have been in trouble. But there's one thing, we don't have that much time left. I want you to talk a little bit about Project Hardest Hit, because I think it's one of the most wonderful things I ever heard of, and I didn't know about till you told me the other day.
And That's been my mantra for the last 5 years now. I'll give you the brief background. In October of 2010, the federal government provided funds to the state governments. I believe there's 17 states that have it, but I'll just speak to Florida right now. So the federal government funded the state of Florida to assist the Florida citizens who are unemployed or underemployed through no fault of their own. So you've lost your job due to the economy, you were laid off. And or underemployed, which means you had to take a pay cut or, again, a lower paying job. And as a result of that, of course, you have trouble making your mortgage payments. The Florida Hardest Hit Fund is the federally funded state program that will assist you, will not assist, it will actually make your mortgage payment for you during this period of unemployment or underemployment. Now, there, of course, are eligibility criteria, but they're pretty broad, and I don't know what the actual percentages are, but I say it's around 80% of the people who apply, if they've read through the application process before applying and believe that they qualify, then they generally do. And there's an asterisk as to the freeness of the money, but it is free government money to assist you with your mortgage payment while you're unemployed or underemployed. You can find out more information on that at flhardesthithelp.org. And that's the state-run site. There is a secondary program that came out a couple years later, that for all of those people who are actually making their mortgage payment and they're current on their mortgage payment, but they're upside down because the market collapsed and so they owe $150,000 on their house that's only worth $100,000. The government has instituted a principal reduction program that will actually, again, it's free money. There are some criteria to that, but for the most part, it's free money up to $50,000 to reduce the amount of your debt down to 100%. So in my example, if you owe $130,000 on your house and it's worth $100,000, they'd give you $30,000. If you owe $150,000, they'd give you $50,000. Now there again are criteria. You have to be, they just changed the terms of the program. It used to be 125% upside down. You now only have to be 115% upside down. So they've again broadened the scope of the program to assist more homeowners. And now there's a third program that I'm not as well versed at, but I will tell you it's the first-time home buyer program, though you don't technically have to be a first-time home buyer. That's just the name of the program. And there they're giving up to $15,000 in closing costs. And again, there's a little asterisk, but it's essentially free money to assist people in buying a home. Is provided they qualify for a mortgage, they can get this $15,000 of closing costs paid by the state.
I thought it was interesting. I read that in what you sent me. How in the world can the federal government authorize up to $15,000 in closing costs when so many of these lenders or whatever they are, mortgage people, are saying no closing cost? What I know you smile. What do you? Why did you smile, John?
Well, no closing cost is a myth. There's closing costs. There's no.
I know that.
There's no transaction that does not have closing costs. I don't quite know what lenders say when they say no closing cost, because maybe what they mean is they will roll the closing cost into your mortgage, so you're not coming out of pocket, but you're now paying interest on whatever those costs were. I'm not aware of any lender who is literally absorbing all of the costs associated with a closing, which includes government, documentary stamp taxes and intangible taxes, title insurance, etc. So again, the no closing cost to me is a myth, and the fact that there are closing costs, this government program will pay for them, is pretty nice.
A lot of people mistake why we put Medicare in place, why we put Medicaid in place. Why does such a program exist, Jonathan? Why do you think that the government in 2010 developed or let hardest hit go on the street?
The Obama administration in 2008 came out with this umbrella of programs under the Making Home Affordable umbrella, I'll call it. And the Making Home Affordable programs assisted with loan modifications and short sales and foreclosure alternatives, and the HARP program, a variety of the refinance program. There are a variety of programs under this umbrella for making home affordable, and it was all designed to assist with our collapsed housing market and to try to get people back on their feet. This piece of the program they decided to pass on to the states because every state had their own unique employment issues.
Right.
But what was happening is people who, I always use the Space Center as the example because that was the bulk of my clients early on. When we had all those layoffs into Space Center, you had high quality people making large amounts of money, and all of a sudden they're unemployed. And
Right.
they're good, fine people working hard, trying to find a job, doing whatever they can. Meanwhile, because they're unemployed, a lot of them, again, had some savings. So now they're pouring through their savings to pay their mortgage while they're looking for a job. And thankfully, knock on wood, I've had the luxury of working together with my father for my entire career, so we've had a good practice. But it's very stressful to not be able to make your mortgage payment, and trying to look for a job and worry about your mortgage, et cetera, is difficult. So the government says we're going to help these people make their mortgage payments so that they can go out and find a job, get back on their feet, and make the payment themselves.
Have you found many people in Brevard County that you've been able to help?
Oh, this is a fantastic program. We've been doing it since April of 2006, so we're entering our 5th year now. And I wish I had looked up the numbers, but it's thousands.
I could think of 3 people that I really have talked to Kay about sending their names to you, because I can think of one man that his mortgage payment is $1,100 a month. He lost his job. He cannot find a job. We've tried to help him get reemployed. We didn't know about Project Hardest Hit. It's a fantastic program.
That's the single, most frustrating thing to me. Again, the program's been around since April of 2006. I teach a seminar at the Career Source Brevard every month or thereabouts to teach people about it. That's where people are going to seek reemployment.
Jonathan, we're almost out of time. I want you to say twice, how can people contact you? What's your phone number?
Okay, my phone number is area code 321-953-5115, or you can reach me on the web at www.lacklaw.com. That's LACKLAW.com.
Phone number again.
Area code 321-953-5115.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you so much. I think it's been a wonderful piece of information to get out to people. I'm Joe Steckler. Thank you for joining our program today. I'd like to remind you that our senior information line is available to you at 321-473-7770. There you can get help and direction that could be helpful for your specific situation or circumstances. The work of helping seniors is very important, but we can't do it alone. That is why our sponsors here in Brevard County are so important. I'd like to thank our many area sponsors, businesses, and medical providers who support the mission of helping seniors that help us carry the cost of our media efforts. If you'd like to join us either as a business partner or simply donate as an individual, we would welcome your call at 321-473-7770. You are always welcome to visit our website at www.helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. Thanks so much for your help. It does make a difference.